There are things you should never do for a woman, not because you're selfish, not because you don't care about her, but because doing these things will destroy her respect for you, kill her attraction to you, and turn you into exactly the kind of man she eventually leaves. Most men don't realize they're sabotaging their relationships by doing things they think make them good boyfriends. They sacrifice, they compromise, they give up parts of themselves, and they think they're being loving and supportive. But they're actually being weak. They're actually demonstrating low value. They're actually signing their own relationship death warrant. Because women don't respect men who sacrifice themselves. They don't stay attracted to men who have no boundaries. They don't love men who abandon their mission for her. And the 10th thing on this list, that's the one that's hardest to accept. That's the one that goes against everything society has taught you about relationships. But it's also the one that will save you from years of regret if you listen to it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which behaviors to eliminate from your relationship immediately. You'll know which sacrifices destroy attraction instead of building it. And you'll know how to be a good partner without becoming weak. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Mind Forge, where we don't teach motivation. We teach the brutal reality of male psychology, masculinity, and the laws of power. In a world that wants men to be weak, we provide the tools for strength. This channel dives deep into the high-value traits that define a leader, from the power of silence and stoic discipline to understanding the hidden truths of female nature and attraction. If you're tired of doing everything for her and getting nothing in return, if you're done sacrificing yourself for women who don't appreciate it, if you're ready to learn what actually maintains respect and attraction instead of killing it, then hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Because what I'm about to reveal will contradict everything you've been taught about being a good man. The weak will keep sacrificing. The strong will set boundaries. Now let's talk about the 10 things you should never do for a woman. Thing number 1, never abandon your purpose for her. This is the foundation. This is the most important thing on this list. Because the moment you make her the center of your life, the moment your purpose becomes keeping her happy instead of building your mission, you've lost, not just your purpose. You've lost her respect and attraction. Here's what most men don't understand. She was attracted to you because you had a purpose. Because you were building something. Because you had drive and ambition and goals that consumed you. That's what made you interesting. That's what made you valuable. That's what separated you from all the other men who had nothing going on in their lives. But then you get into a relationship and you start making her your priority. You start sacrificing time you used to spend on your business to spend more time with her. You start turning down opportunities because she wants attention. You start making decisions based on what keeps her happy instead of what builds your future. And you think you're being a good boyfriend. You think you're showing her she's important to you. But here's what's actually happening. You're becoming less attractive. Every sacrifice you make of your purpose for her comfort is a deposit in the bank of lost attraction. Because the man she fell for was a man on a mission. The man you're becoming is a man whose mission is her. And that's weak, that's unattractive, that's the beginning of the end. Women don't want to be your purpose. They want to be part of your purpose. They want to know that you were building something before they showed up and you'll keep building whether they stay or leave. They want to feel like they're joining your journey, not that they are your journey. Because if your entire life revolves around her, what happens when she's having a bad day? Your whole world falls apart. What happens when she needs you to be strong? You can't be because your strength comes from her approval. I've seen this destroy countless relationships. The guy who gives up his business dreams because she wants more attention. The guy who stops pursuing his goals because she feels neglected. The guy who makes every decision based on her comfort instead of his mission. And every single time the same thing happens, she loses respect for him. She stops seeing him as a leader. She starts seeing him as someone she controls, and the attraction dies. So the rule is absolute. Never abandon your purpose for a woman. Never sacrifice your long-term goals for her short-term emotional needs. Never make her the center of your life. Your purpose comes first. Your mission comes first. Your goals come first. She fits into that, or she doesn't. But you don't reshape your entire life around her. And here's what's ironic. When you maintain your purpose, when you refuse to sacrifice your mission for her, when you make it clear that your goals are non-negotiable, she respects you more. She's more attracted to you. She values the time you do give her because it's not guaranteed. She knows she's with a man who's going somewhere, not a man who's sitting around waiting to make her happy. But if you abandon your purpose, if you make her your reason for living, if everything you do is about her, she'll lose respect for you. And once a woman loses respect for the man she's with, the relationship is over. It might take months or years for it to officially end, but the relationship died the moment respect died. Thing number 2, never tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. This is where most men completely sabotage themselves. They think that being a good partner means accepting whatever behavior she throws at them. They think that real love means tolerating disrespect, rudeness, and poor treatment because that's just how she is, or she's having a bad day, or I don't want to fight. But here's the truth. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you're teaching her that disrespecting you has no consequences. You're training her that she can treat you however she wants and you'll stick around. You're proving that you have no boundaries, and women lose all attraction to men with no boundaries. Let me be clear about what disrespect looks like. It's speaking to you rudely in front of others. It's dismissing your opinions or decisions. It's mocking you or belittling you. It's violating boundaries you've set. It's treating you like you're beneath her. It's any behavior that demonstrates a lack of respect for you as a man and as a leader. And when this happens, most men do one of two things. They either ignore it and pretend it didn't happen, or they get angry and fight about it. Both responses are weak. Ignoring it communicates that you'll accept anything. Fighting about it communicates that she got to you, that you're emotionally reactive, that you can't handle disrespect with composure. The strong response is calm enforcement of consequences. The first time she disrespects you, you address it once clearly and firmly. That's not acceptable. If it happens again, there will be consequences. No anger, no emotion, just a clear statement of boundary. And then if it happens again, you follow through immediately. You create distance, you withdraw attention, you end the interaction, and if it continues, you end the relationship. Because here's what you need to understand. A woman who repeatedly disrespects you despite clear boundaries is not a woman who loves you. She's a woman who's testing to see if you'll accept poor treatment. And if you do accept it, she'll lose all respect for you and eventually leave anyway. But if you enforce your boundaries, if you demonstrate that disrespect leads to loss of access to you, she'll adjust her behavior, because high-quality women don't want to lose high-quality men. Most men tolerate disrespect because they're afraid of being alone. They're afraid she'll leave if they enforce boundaries. But here's the reality. She's going to leave anyway if you don't enforce boundaries, because she'll lose respect and attraction. The only difference is whether you maintain your dignity and self-respect in the process. So never tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. The peace you're keeping by accepting poor treatment is fake peace. It's you suppressing your self-respect to avoid conflict, and that will destroy you from the inside. Real peace comes from mutual respect, and mutual respect only exists when you demand it through your boundaries. Thing number 3, never sacrifice your male friendships for her. This is critical, and most men fail this test completely. They get into a relationship, and slowly, over time, they stop hanging out with their friends. They stop having their own social life. They stop maintaining the male relationships that ground them and keep them sane. And they do this because she complains. She says she wants more time together. She makes him feel guilty for going out with the guys. She creates drama when he chooses friends over her. And instead of maintaining his boundaries, instead of explaining that male friendships are non-negotiable, he slowly sacrifices his social life to keep her happy. This is catastrophic for multiple reasons. First, you need male friendships. You need other men in your life who understand you, who challenge you, who keep you accountable. Male friendship provides something that no romantic relationship can provide: brotherhood, competition, shared masculine energy. When you lose that, you lose part of yourself. Second, when you sacrifice your friendships for her, you become completely dependent on her for social and emotional fulfillment. And that's unhealthy, that's needy, that makes you boring. Because now every time you want social interaction, you need her. Every time you want to do something, it's with her. She becomes your entire world, and that's suffocating for both of you. Third, sacrificing your friendships for her demonstrates low value. It shows that you'll abandon important relationships to keep her comfortable. It shows that you have no backbone. It shows that you're controllable, and women are not attracted to controllable men. High-value men maintain their friendships regardless of whether their woman approves or not. They have regular guy time. They prioritize their brothers. They maintain their social circle. And they make it clear to their woman that these friendships are part of who they are, and she needs to accept that or leave. And here's what happens when you do this. She respects you more, because you've demonstrated that you're your own man. You're not going to reshape your entire life to accommodate her insecurities. You have a life outside of her, and that makes you more attractive, not less. But if you sacrifice your friendships, if you become the guy who's always with his girlfriend and never with his friends, you become that guy. The guy everyone knows is controlled by his woman. The guy who disappears into relationships. The guy who has no life outside of her. And that's not attractive, that's pathetic. Now, thing number 4 is one most men don't even realize they're doing. But it's one of the fastest ways to kill attraction and turn yourself into a man she doesn't respect. This is about your time and how you value it. Stay locked in, because this changes everything about how you structure your relationship. Thing number 4, never be always available. This seems simple, but most men completely miss this. They think that being a good boyfriend means always being there for her, always responding to her texts immediately, always being free when she wants attention, always prioritizing her over everything else, and they think this shows love and commitment. But it doesn't. It shows lack of value. It shows that you have nothing else going on in your life. It shows that your time isn't valuable because you're willing to drop everything for her at any moment. and that kills attraction faster than almost anything else. Think about it from a value perspective. What's more valuable, something that's always available and easy to get, or something that's scarce and has to be earned? The answer is obvious. Scarcity creates value, abundance destroys it. And when you're always available, you're abundant, you're easy to get. Your time has no value because it's always accessible. But when you're sometimes available and sometimes not, when you have your own schedule and your own priorities and your own life that takes precedence over her immediate emotional needs, your time becomes valuable. When she gets your attention, it means something. When you make time for her, she appreciates it, because it's not guaranteed. Now, this doesn't mean you're purposely ignoring her or playing games. This means you genuinely have a full life. You're working on your business during work hours and you don't drop everything to text her. You're at the gym and your phone is in your locker. You're with friends and you're present with them, not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You have priorities and commitments and a schedule, and she fits into that schedule, but she doesn't control it. And this does two things. It maintains attraction through scarcity, and it demonstrates that you're a man with purpose and direction. You're not sitting around waiting for her to need you. You're building your life, and she's part of it, but not the center of it. Most men do the opposite. They're always available. They respond to texts within seconds. They drop everything when she calls. They rearrange their schedule constantly to accommodate her, and they think this shows dedication, but it shows neediness. It shows that they have nothing better to do than wait for her attention. So the rule is, maintain your own schedule, have your own priorities, be available when it works for your life, not immediately whenever she demands it. This doesn't mean you're neglectful or unavailable when she genuinely needs you. It means you're not at her beck and call every moment of every day. Thing number 5, never change who you are to keep her. This is fundamental, but so many men violate this rule thinking they're being flexible or accommodating. They change their behavior, their interests, their opinions, their personality to fit what they think she wants. And in doing so, they destroy the very thing that attracted her in the first place. She was attracted to the man you were when she met you. The guy with his own opinions, his own interests, his own style, his own personality. That's who she chose. But then over time, you start morphing into what you think she wants you to be. You start dressing differently because she doesn't like your style. You stop doing hobbies she thinks are a waste of time. You adopt her opinions to avoid disagreements. You change your personality to be more agreeable, more accommodating, more what you think she wants. And here's the devastating irony. The more you change yourself to keep her, the less she wants you. Because you're not the man she chose anymore. You're a different person, a watered-down version. A man who's trying to be what she wants instead of being authentically himself. And that's deeply unattractive. Women are attracted to men who are congruent. Men who are the same person whether she's around or not. Men who have strong frames that don't bend to external pressure. Men who know who they are and refuse to change themselves for anyone. That's attractive. That's masculine. That's leadership. But when you change yourself to accommodate her, when you mold yourself to fit her preferences, when you abandon your authentic self to keep her happy, you're demonstrating weakness. You're showing that you're controllable. You're proving that you'll sacrifice your identity for her approval, and that kills attraction completely. Now, this doesn't mean you never grow or improve. Healthy relationships inspire both people to become better versions of themselves. But there's a difference between improving yourself and changing yourself. Improving is becoming more disciplined, more successful, more skilled, more knowledgeable. Changing is becoming a different person with different values, interests, and personality to fit her preferences. Improve yourself for yourself. Become better because you want to be better. But never change your core identity, your values, your authentic self to keep a woman. Because the moment you do, you've lost her anyway. You've just delayed the inevitable while sacrificing your self-respect in the process. Thing number 6, never defend yourself when she tests you. This is advanced, but it's crucial. Women test men constantly. They make accusations. They challenge your decisions. They question your choices. They create little conflicts to see how you respond. And most men fail these tests by defending themselves. When she says you never listen to me, the weak response is to list all the times you listened and prove that the accusation is false. When she says you're being selfish, the weak response is to explain all the ways you're not selfish and get defensive. When she challenges any aspect of your character or behavior, the weak response is to defend yourself and prove you're right. But defending yourself is exactly what she's testing for. She wants to know, is this man secure enough in himself that he doesn't need my validation? Or does he need me to believe he's good? The moment you defend yourself, you've proven you need her approval. You need her to think you're right. You need her validation, and that's low value. The high-value response to tests is to remain unbothered. She accuses you of something, and you either ignore it completely if it's a blatant test, or you calmly acknowledge it without defensiveness. Okay, and then you continue doing what you were doing. no explanation, no justification, no defense, just calm acceptance or dismissal. This drives her crazy in the best way, because you didn't give her the reaction she was seeking. You didn't prove you need her validation. You demonstrated that you know your worth and her accusations don't shake your frame. And that passes the test. That proves you're strong. That maintains attraction. Most men spend hours defending themselves, trying to prove they're good boyfriends, seeking her approval through justification and explanation. And every minute spent doing that is a minute of destroyed attraction, because defensive men are weak men, and women are not attracted to weakness. If you're starting to see all the ways you've been destroying attraction by doing these things, hit that like button right now, because what's coming next is even more important. Things 7 through 10 are the behaviors that separate men who keep attraction alive from men who turn into the provider she eventually resents. Keep watching. Thing number 7, never sacrifice your standards to keep her around. This is where most men completely lose themselves. They have standards when they're single, standards for how they want to be treated, standards for what behavior is acceptable, standards for what kind of woman they want. But the moment they get into a relationship, especially with a woman they really like, those standards evaporate. She violates a boundary, but they let it slide because they don't want to lose her. She does something they said was unacceptable, but they make excuses for it. She doesn't meet the standard they set, but they lower the standard instead of enforcing it. And they do all of this because they're afraid that if they hold firm to their standards, she'll leave. But here's the brutal truth. If you have to lower your standards to keep her, she's not worth keeping. Because a woman who doesn't meet your standards will never make you happy long term. You'll always be tolerating behavior you don't respect. You'll always be compromising your values. You'll always be settling. And here's what happens when you sacrifice your standards. You lose respect for her and yourself. You resent her for the behavior you're tolerating. You resent yourself for being weak enough to tolerate it. The relationship becomes a prison where you're constantly managing your disappointment and resentment. And she loses respect for you because she knows she's getting away with behavior that shouldn't be acceptable. High-value men have standards and they maintain those standards regardless of who walks away. If a woman can't meet the standard, she's eliminated. Not cruelly, not angrily, but definitively. Because a man with standards would rather be alone than in a relationship that violates those standards. And paradoxically, when you maintain your standards, when you're willing to walk away from women who don't meet them, you attract higher quality women who do meet them. Because high quality women respect men with standards. They don't want a man who accepts anything. They want a man who's selective. They want to be chosen by a man who actually has requirements. So never sacrifice your standards. Not for attention, not for sex, not for companionship, not for any woman. Your standards are what separate you from men who accept mediocrity. And the moment you abandon them, you become one of those men. Thing number 8, never make her your emotional outlet. This is subtle but devastating. Men need emotional processing. We all have stress, frustration, anxiety, fear, and other emotions that need to be dealt with. But there's a right way and a wrong way to handle this in a relationship. The wrong way, which most men do, is to make their woman their therapist. They come home stressed and dump all their emotions on her. They use her as their primary emotional processing system. They treat her like she's there to manage their emotional state, and they think this is healthy communication and vulnerability. But it's not, it's emotional weakness, and it kills attraction faster than almost anything, because women are not attracted to men who use them as emotional tampons. Women are attracted to men who have their emotions under control, men who can handle stress without falling apart, men who are the rock, not another source of emotional chaos. Now, this doesn't mean you can never be vulnerable or share struggles with your woman. In the right context, with the right woman, appropriate vulnerability can deepen connection. But there's a massive difference between occasional vulnerability from a position of strength versus constant emotional dumping from a position of weakness. The man who occasionally shares a struggle but maintains his composure, his direction, his emotional control, that's attractive vulnerability. The man who constantly vents his stress, anxiety, and emotions to his woman, who uses her as his primary emotional support system, who can't handle his own emotional state, that's weak. You need male friends for emotional processing. You need mentors, therapists, or coaches if necessary. You need outlets that aren't your romantic partner, because when you make her your emotional therapist, you're asking her to mother you, and she can't be attracted to a man she's mothering. So handle your emotions like a man, process them through productive channels, maintain your composure around her, be the stability in her life, not another source of emotional instability, and save vulnerability for rare, appropriate moments where it deepens connection rather than creates burden. Thing number 9, never prioritize her feelings over reality. This is one of the most important and least understood principles on this list. In modern relationships, men are taught to prioritize women's feelings above everything else, above logic, above facts, above reality. They're taught that if she feels something, that feeling is valid and must be accommodated regardless of whether it aligns with reality. But this is a trap, because feelings are not reality. Feelings are subjective emotional responses that can be completely disconnected from objective truth. And when you prioritize her feelings over reality, when you let her emotions dictate decisions, when you reshape truth to avoid upsetting her, you're being a weak leader. Let me give you an example. You have a female friend or colleague. Your woman feels insecure about this friendship even though it's completely platonic and professional. The weak response is to end the friendship or drastically change your behavior to manage her feelings. You're prioritizing her emotions over the reality that the friendship is harmless. The strong response is to acknowledge her feelings without changing reality. I understand you feel insecure, but this friendship isn't going anywhere because it's not a threat. You need to handle those feelings. You're not cruel, you're not dismissive, but you're also not reshaping reality to accommodate irrational feelings. Or you make a decision about your career, taking a job in another city, pursuing a business opportunity that requires travel. She feels anxious or upset about it. The weak response is to not take the opportunity to manage her feelings. You're prioritizing her emotional comfort over your career growth and reality of what's best for your future. The strong response is to make the decision based on what's actually right and expect her to either support it or leave. This is the right move for my career. I understand you're not comfortable with it, but this is happening. You can come with me and support this, or we can end this relationship, but I'm not sacrificing my future to manage your anxiety. This sounds harsh to modern ears, but it's leadership. Real leadership means making decisions based on reality, not feelings. It means doing what's right even when it's uncomfortable. It means not letting someone else's emotional state control your life direction. And here's what's interesting. When you do this, when you prioritize reality over her feelings, she often respects you more. She might be upset in the moment. She might resist. But long term, she respects a man who leads based on truth rather than a man who's controlled by her emotions. Women don't want men who are slaves to their feelings. They want men who acknowledge their feelings but make decisions based on reality. They want leaders, not emotional managers. Now we're getting to number 10, the most controversial thing on this list. This is the one that goes against everything modern relationships teach, but it's also the one that will save you from the biggest mistake men make. This is about sacrifice and what you should never give up for any woman. Stay with me. Thing number 10, never sacrifice your masculine edge to make her comfortable. This is the big one. This is the one that destroys more relationships than anything else. And it's the one that men don't see coming because it happens slowly, over time, through 1,000 small compromises. Your masculine edge is what makes you a man. It's your aggression channeled productively. It's your competitive nature. It's your drive to dominate in your field. It's your willingness to take risks. It's your rough edges. It's the parts of you that are hard, uncompromising, dangerous when necessary. It's your masculine energy in its raw, unfiltered form. And when you first meet a woman, especially a feminine woman, she's attracted to that masculine edge. She's attracted to the fact that you're not soft, you're not agreeable, you're not easy to control. You have a dangerous quality that's exciting and attractive. But then over time, she starts trying to soften you. Sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. She wants you to be less aggressive, less competitive, less focused on dominating your field, more focused on her comfort, more agreeable, more accommodating, softer. And she does this through complaints. You work too much, you're too intense, you need to relax more. Why are you always competing with everyone? Can't you just be present with me? And each complaint is designed, consciously or not, to sand down your rough edges, to make you more comfortable for her, to make you softer. And if you listen, if you start sacrificing your edge to make her comfortable, if you become softer and more agreeable and less driven, you kill her attraction to you. Because the man she's creating isn't the man she chose. She chose a lion, she's creating a house cat, and she's not attracted to house cats. This is the fundamental paradox of masculine-feminine relationships. She's attracted to your masculine edge, but her comfort-seeking nature wants to soften that edge. And if you let her soften you, she loses attraction to you. But if you maintain your edge despite her complaints, she stays attracted. So you have to be willing to let her be uncomfortable with your masculine nature. You have to be willing to be too intense, too driven, too competitive, too focused on your mission. You have to maintain the rough edges that made you attractive in the first place, even when she's asking you to smooth them out. This doesn't mean you're an asshole. This doesn't mean you ignore her legitimate needs, but it means you don't sacrifice the core of your masculine identity to make her comfortable. You don't become less driven to give her more attention. You don't become less competitive to be more agreeable. You don't sand down your edges to make yourself easier for her to manage. High-value women ultimately respect this. They might complain in the moment. They might test you by asking you to be softer. But when you maintain your masculine edge despite those tests, they respect you more. They stay attracted, because they're with a man, not a domesticated version of a man. Low-quality women will keep pushing you to become softer until you're no longer recognizable. And then they'll leave you for a man who maintained his edge. This is the trap that destroys men. They sacrifice their masculine nature to keep a woman comfortable, and then she leaves them for a man who hasn't sacrificed his. So never sacrifice your masculine edge. Never let a woman soften you to the point where you're not recognizable as the man she chose. Never abandon the intensity, the drive, the competitive nature, the rough edges that make you masculine. Because the moment you do, you've lost her anyway. You've just delayed the inevitable while destroying yourself in the process. Now let me tie all 10 of these together with the overarching principle. Never sacrifice who you are or what makes you valuable to accommodate a woman's short-term comfort or emotional needs. Because everything on this list, abandoning your purpose, tolerating disrespect, sacrificing friendships, being always available, changing who you are, defending yourself, lowering your standards, becoming her emotional outlet, prioritizing feelings over reality, sacrificing your masculine edge, all of it comes down to the same mistake. Men sacrifice themselves thinking it will make women love them more, but it does the opposite. It makes women respect them less and attraction dies with respect. The men who maintain long-term attraction, the men who keep women loyal and devoted, the men who build relationships that last, they're not the men who sacrifice everything. They're the men who maintain their standards, their boundaries, their purpose, their masculine frame. They're the men who are willing to lose a woman rather than lose themselves. And paradoxically, that's exactly why they don't lose women. Because women don't want men who sacrifice themselves. They want men who are too strong to be controlled, too valuable to be taken for granted, too focused on their mission to be pulled off course. So the ultimate rule is this: be a good man, be supportive, be loving, be a strong partner, but never do it at the expense of your purpose, your standards, your masculine frame, or your self-respect. Because the moment you sacrifice those things, you've destroyed the foundation that made you attractive in the first place. A woman should fit into your life and add value to it. She shouldn't require you to destroy your life to accommodate her. If keeping her requires you to abandon your purpose, tolerate disrespect, sacrifice your friendships, be always available, change who you are, defend yourself constantly, lower your standards, become her therapist, prioritize feelings over reality, or sacrifice your masculine edge, she's not worth keeping. Because you can find another woman. There are millions of women in the world, but you only get one life, one shot at building something meaningful, one opportunity to become the man you're capable of becoming, and no woman is worth sacrificing that. The men who understand this, who refuse to do these 10 things regardless of who walks away, are the men who end up with high-quality women who appreciate them. Because high-quality women don't want men who sacrifice themselves. They want men who are too valuable to sacrifice. Drop a comment right now. Which of these 10 are you doing wrong? Be brutally honest with yourself. No judgment, just awareness. Because you can't fix what you won't acknowledge. And I want to know where you're at. Now let me show you how to implement this starting today. So how do you actually implement this? How do you stop doing these 10 things if you've been doing them for months or years? Here's your action plan. First, identify which of these 10 you're currently violating. Go through the list honestly. Are you abandoning your purpose for her, tolerating disrespect, sacrificing friendships, being always available, changing who you are, defending yourself in tests, lowering your standards, being her emotional therapist, prioritizing feelings over reality, sacrificing your masculine edge? Most men are violating at least 3 or 4 of these. Some are violating all 10. Second, pick the most egregious violation and address it immediately. Don't try to fix everything at once. Pick the one that's causing the most damage and change it today. If you've abandoned your purpose, recommit to it today. If you're tolerating disrespect, set a boundary today. If you've sacrificed your friendships, reach out to your boys today. Make one immediate change. Third, communicate the change through action, not words. Don't sit her down and explain that you're going to stop doing these things. Don't warn her that things are changing. Just change. Start prioritizing your purpose. Start enforcing boundaries. Start maintaining your friendships. Start being less available. Let your behavior communicate the change. Fourth, expect resistance. When you stop doing these things, when you start enforcing boundaries and maintaining your masculine frame, she's going to resist. She's going to test harder. She's going to complain that you're changing or being distant or not giving her enough attention. That's normal. That's her testing to see if your changes are real or temporary. Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't revert to old behavior to make her comfortable. Just maintain your new standard. Fifth, be willing to lose her. This is the hardest part, but the most important. You have to be genuinely okay with the possibility that when you stop sacrificing yourself, she might leave. Some women can't handle being with a man who has strong boundaries. Some women need a man they can control. And if that's who she is, you're better off losing her now than wasting more years sacrificing yourself for someone who doesn't respect you. But here's what actually happens most of the time. When you stop doing these 10 things, when you enforce boundaries and maintain your masculine frame, when you become less available and more focused on your purpose, she doesn't leave. She adjusts. She respects you more. She's more attracted to you. The relationship improves because you've re-established the power dynamic that creates attraction. Not always. Sometimes she does leave. Sometimes she can't handle being with a man she can't control. But when that happens, you've dodged a bullet, because that relationship was doomed anyway. You just sped up the inevitable while maintaining your self-respect. The key is understanding that your job isn't to keep any specific woman. Your job is to be a high-value man, to maintain your purpose, your standards, your boundaries, your masculine frame. And high-value men attract high-quality women. So if enforcing these boundaries costs you this particular woman, it will attract a better woman who actually appreciates a man with standards. Never forget, you are the prize, not her. You're the one with the purpose, the drive, the mission, the strength. You're the one building something. You're the one with value to offer. She should be earning access to your life, not you sacrificing your life to keep her around. When you operate from this frame, when you refuse to do these 10 things regardless of who walks away, everything changes. You stop being the guy women take for granted and start being the guy women fight to keep. You stop being the provider she eventually resents and start being the man she actually respects and desires. This isn't about being selfish or uncaring. This is about maintaining the strength and standards that make you valuable in the first place. This is about being a good man without being a weak man. This is about supporting her without sacrificing yourself. If this video just changed your entire approach to relationships, if you finally see which behaviors have been destroying attraction, then subscribe to this channel right now and turn on all notifications. Because everything I teach here is designed to help you become a high-value man who attracts high-quality women through strength, not sacrifice. The content coming next week shows you exactly how to build the masculine frame that makes these boundaries natural. Don't miss it. Subscribe now. Choose strength over sacrifice. These are the 10 things you should never do for a woman. Abandon your purpose, tolerate disrespect, sacrifice your friendships, be always available, change who you are, defend yourself in tests, sacrifice your standards, make her your emotional outlet, prioritize feelings over reality, and sacrifice your masculine edge. Every single one of these behaviors destroys attraction. Every single one makes you less valuable in her eyes. Every single one turns you from a man she desires into a man she tolerates or eventually leaves. But when you refuse to do these things, when you maintain your purpose and your standards and your masculine frame, when you're willing to lose her rather than lose yourself, you become the kind of man women actually want to keep. Not because you're perfect, but because you're strong, because you have boundaries, because you know your value and you won't compromise it for anyone. This is the path to relationships that actually work. Not relationships where you sacrifice everything and hope she appreciates it, but relationships where you maintain who you are and she respects you for it. Relationships built on mutual respect rather than one-sided sacrifice. Now click on the next video on your screen, because what I'm showing you there is how to build unshakable masculine frame that makes all of these boundaries natural and effortless. You need to watch that immediately. This is the Mind Forge, where we don't teach you how to sacrifice yourself for women. We teach you how to be a man women respect and desire by maintaining strength, standards, and self-respect. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Now go become uncompromising.